Okay. I'm really struggling. Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Tina. Today we're going to talk about the 10 books that I finished in the month of May. We're also going to talk about how I did with my self-imposed TBR that I set for myself for this month. My goal was to read through all of the books and not deviate from the list and not DNF anything. So we'll see how I did. And I'm going to tell you what I took away from this experience. And of course, what I thought about the books, the ones that worked, which didn't, etc. And I've got the big mic out today, so let me know if you like this setup. I don't love the lighting down here. It's really harsh and I feel like I'm going blind, but also I really like this mic. It's nice and crisp and buttery. And this is the podcast mic, so I don't know. We're trying new things around here. Here's why I'm saying that this was the worst reading month of my year so far. First of all, I read 10 books, which for me is not a ton. I think last month I read, I want to say 16, 15. Anyway, a lot more than this month. And I'm not really mad about the quantity of the books. It was the quality of the books. Overall, I don't know that I had the best reading month I could have. There's definitely some that I would have DNF'd had I not had this self-imposed set TBR. And I did DNF some. I ended up DNFing some. All right, looking at my stats here for May, again, I read 10 books and I rated one of them 5 stars, which I will take. I rated 3 of them 4.5. I rated 1 4.25, 2 3.5, 1 3-star, 1 1-star. So let's get into it. I think I will go from the ones that I DNF'd to least favorites to favorites. Does that make sense to you? Great. Let's do it that way. All right. So as I said, at the beginning of this month, I had a self-imposed set TBR. I really wanted to see if I could challenge myself and just read from a list of books that I had listed. And I had to sort of fit in a couple of book club books. I had to fit in some reading for the podcast. And of course, just books that I wanted to read. I thought I had a good list going, but I do think that I'm a mood reader at the end of the day. What I liked from this set TBR experience was that it took away the decision fatigue. I really liked not having to worry about which book I was going to read next, which order, where my holds were. My library borrows got down to 0 because none of the books that I was reading for this month were from the library, and that was kind of freeing. And I liked that I had these books in multiple formats because I knew which books I wanted. I was able to request them, and I had multiple formats of each. The list itself was fine, and I see why I put a lot of them on the list. I see, why some didn't work for me. I technically have just 1 DNF and then 2 not right now, and then the rest I ended up finishing. So the only one that I officially DNF'd from the stack was Ann Tyler's Breathing Lessons, and this is a my bad. I had picked this one up initially because it was on our list of patrons 5-star reads, and I thought, great, I've never read Ann Tyler. I like the cover, and I know she's widely loved, and I thought, okay, I have a copy of it. I own this, so let me go ahead and pick it up and give it a shot. I kind of liked it in the beginning. So this woman backs out, or she's like taking her car from the mechanic, and she ends up getting hit by some sort of garbage truck or something. And then you realize that she is shaken up because she heard something disturbing on the radio, and it's that her ex-daughter-in-law is getting remarried. And anyway, it was an interesting premise. I enjoyed it at first, but then they go on this road trip, she and her husband. And it is a very dated book. And that is okay, right? It was written in the 90s, I want to say. It was just that by the time they got, 1988, this was written. By the time they got to their first stop, which was this cafe, they'd been bickering for hours. And when she gets there, she's talking to this person at the cafe about, oh my gosh, I can't lose these last 5 pounds. I couldn't possibly take a pie slice, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you don't need to lose weight. Ton of body talk with this one, ton of bickering. And it felt petty, and I was not enjoying it. It was like bumming me out to think about reading this. So I said, you know what, screw it. It's not a syllabus. I don't have to read all the books that I put on my list. It's my channel. It's my reading life. So we went ahead and DNF'd this one. And I feel better about it. And I will say a DNF is a review, right? That means we know how we feel about it. It's not something that I need to focus on. I know that it wasn't for me. The 2 that I'm less convinced aren't for me is The Bitter Truth and the Last Night at the Telegraph Club. Now, last night at the Telegraph Club, I picked up, I was shooting for our Queer Reads episode, and I was going to try it for this. And the setup sounds great. It's about Lily. It's in America in 1954. She is Chinese American, and she's talking about the Red Scare and how hard it is to be a lesbian during that time period. Not to mention being somebody who is Chinese. And I think I will come back to this one. I am smart, but like I didn't read these awards, and some of these awards were YA awards, and I didn't realize that this is a YA book. And I tried to get into it twice. I had the audio and I was really trying, and I just couldn't get there. It's a reach for me, historical fiction. It's a reach for me, YA. And I think it's just not the right time. This one is not getting donated. This one's going to go back here on my TBR shelf. So by the way, those are all the books that I would like to read at some point. There's also piles that we don't talk about, but I'm going to put that in the TBR shelf and hopefully get back to it someday. This one, The Bitter Truth by Shanora Williams, is one. It's a thriller. I picked it up on Independent Bookstore Day, and we're doing an episode next month for Book Talk, etc. for indie publishers. And I thought, great, Kensington is the biggest indie publisher. I thought this one sounded really good, and it is good. I just feel like I am just so much more excited about the new releases that are coming out in June that I can't see myself like forcing my way through it. It's not a bad book. It's just not grabbing me. I've been trying to read this, I swear to you, for like 2 weeks. And it's about this man, Dominic, who's running for governor of North Carolina. He's pretty terrible. You know this. He did something bad when he was younger. And his wife, I don't think knows about it, but she is this perfect wife. And I have a feeling she's going to expose him because they are having this contentious relationship. I'll get back to it at some point. I really want to read this author. I just feel like right now in June, or about to be June, there are so many good thrillers coming out that I just can't focus, right? My mood reader has gotten in the way for me. So these two are going back on the TBR shelf to be read at a later date in time. So now let's get into the books that I did read. And these books are from least favorite to most favorite. And if you followed me at all, you know that I can be a gentle reviewer. I am not the strictest when it comes to reviewing. I think I've given only a handful of books 1 star in my reading life as far as I've been tracking it. And I gave The Float Test 1 star. Hear me out. It is a family saga. It's about 4 siblings who come together after the death of their mother. They go back to their family home, and you find out that they grew up pretty wealthy, but it was not a loving home. Mom and dad fought, and they sort of ignored them a lot of the time. The oldest sibling ended up raising some of the younger ones, and you find out that 2 of the younger sisters had this big falling out, and you don't know why until you start to read the story. These people were terrible. They were really not great characters, and I did not enjoy being in their heads. And I say in their heads because you have this really interesting narration style. You've got omniscient narration. And it's not from somebody random. It is from one of the sisters named Jude. So she is narrating this whole story. And what took me out of it is she would be in the head of her brother. Well, he was thinking this. And it's like, how do you know that, right? And you know it's Jude, one of the sisters, narrating her family story. But it was done in a way in which she had like the ability to mind read. And like, obviously you know that that's not the case. Nothing happened. I mean, there is a big blow up at the middle, and you find out why the 2 sisters are estranged. You also gather that these family members are different politically. And the sister that I tend to agree with politically, she talked a lot about climate change and all of these other things that she was trying to get her family to care about. And they were just like, oh, shut up, whatever. And it was kind of annoying to me because I'm like, we should be caring about climate change. But that is not the reason why I gave this 1 star. That was something that happened in the last 10 pages. The only redeeming character in this book is a dog. And I'm going to spoil this part for you because the dog does die. Now, it is not a normal sort of tragic death where it was sick or, something happened. No, the dog gets clipped by the family car. Somebody backs up over it, and then they decide to shoot it. And you find out throughout the novel that the mom has this gun, and they were trying to figure out why did mom have a gun in her nightstand. And you do find out why. And that was fine. But then they shot the dog. And it was a humane kill because it was injured. And I guess they couldn't find a vet open at that time of evening. But also I think it was such a poor choice, very much on the page. And I hated it. And I do not recommend this book. And I will move on from there. Now, the next one, I'm surprised I rated 3 stars because it's 1 in 4 by Lucinda Berry. And as you can see, I tabbed a ton. So I did enjoy my reading experience. I love Lucinda Berry's writing, and I'll tell you why it didn't work for me. This one on the surface sounds like it is such a Tina book. It is about this substance abuse counselor who is working on this reality TV show. And the reality TV show is full of these ex-child stars who all have substance use issues, and they're living in front of the cameras for 24 hours and then one of them dies. Sounds great, right? And that's what got me. That's what sold me. I really was interested in this, and I'm desperate to read a good thriller that has a solid use of reality TV. I feel like a lot of books use reality TV as a jumping off point, and not very many of them do it well. And that's what happened here. Because in the beginning, you're like, what is going on? How is this possible? Laurel is the doctor of psychology, and she's sort of, having these issues herself, trying to figure out like, hey, why is this happening? Because it's looking like she did it, and she obviously didn't, right? And then something happens about halfway through, and this completely changes the story. You're only in the show for like 2 minutes. Literally, I want to say you're spending a total of like maybe 2 hours in this character's life actually on the show, because as soon as the death happens, which happens on the first couple of pages, she stops basically going there for reasons you understand. But then the book changes and it becomes very, very different. And I can't tell you why. What I appreciate about this is that Lucinda Berry is a dark author. She is not afraid to go there. Obviously, I was turning the pages. I had to figure out what the heck was going on. So I enjoyed that. I did not enjoy where this went. It's very gory, very brutal, which you can expect from Lucinda Berry. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that she goes there. I just can't see myself recommending this widely because it's so disturbing, and not in an entertaining way, in more of a sad way. And also it doesn't make a lot of sense way. You know what I'm saying? You probably don't know what I'm saying, but I'm doing my best to describe it. If you've read this one and want to chat about it, leave me a comment or send me a DM on Instagram, because I'm like, I want to love it, and I didn't. But moving on. Okay, I'm calling it audible, and I actually reduced the rating for this one because I was thinking about it. When I was comparing the two of these, Parents' Weekend and 1 in 4, I actually liked 1 in 4 better. It was darker, rougher, kind of more memorable than this one. And I originally had given this 3.5 stars. So Parents' Weekend by Alex Finlay is a book that had another good setup that I got sucked into. It's about this group of parents that visit a small liberal arts college in California for Parents' Weekend. And they're supposed to go to this dinner together. And then 5 of the kids don't show up to this group dinner. And the parents are like, hey, what the hell? Where are they? What's going on? And you come to find out that something happened to them, right? On the synopsis, it says that the group is called the Five, as the podcasters, bloggers, and TikTok sleuths soon call them. And you find out they come from very different families, all of these things. And where this lost me is it was pretty boring. It was pretty boring. It spent a lot of time getting us to know the 5 families who were all terrible in their own right. I think if this wasn't on my list, I probably would have DNF'd it, because the first several chapters you're finding out, okay, the Goffmans, you're finding out the Maldonados, you're finding out who these family members are. And it switches a lot between their different perspectives. There is an ending. Was the ending satisfying? Sure, I guess so. Not overly memorable. I mean, I remember what happened because I did a video about it. I just don't know that this is anything that you need to rush out and get. I'm going to stick with my 3 stars. For me, again, 3 stars means it was fine. It's a book, it entertained me, but I'm not going out of my way to recommend it. All right, and the next one is another thriller, and I did like this a bit more than the others I just mentioned. It is We Are Watching by Allison Galen, although another one where not DNFing worked in my favor, because had I read this by myself and didn't have this list, I probably would have DNF'd it once I figured out what was going on. This is a book about a cult-ish, sort of. And it opens with a really compelling opening. You have a family who is driving their daughter to drop her off at college for the first time. And they get in this horrible accident, and one of the family members doesn't make it. And so it catches up a couple months later when then the remaining family members are trying to rebuild, and they figure out that this group is targeting them. It has it out for them. Where this lost me is the mom in this one is a ding dong. She was bugging me a lot because she kept sticking her head in the sand and refusing to believe that they were actually being targeted, even though it's blatantly obvious. I did guess the twist in this one. It's pretty easy to guess, but at the same time, this one, if you like satanic panic books or cult books, you could like this because it played with that very well. There was a great side character. One of the character's fathers plays a pretty big role in this, and I enjoyed reading about him from his perspective. He's this aging hippie who used to be in a band and sort of now lives off the grid. This one was all right. I gave this 3.5 stars. I would read this author again, but probably not going to say that you need to prioritize this one unless those elements really call to you. All right, now we are stepping into the territory for books that I do recommend. I actually loved all of these books. They're quite different. These are all enjoyable for their own reasons. The Road to Tender Hearts by Annie Hartnett is another road trip novel. I had a couple of those this month. This one, though, is unlike any other road trip novel I've read. It's about PJ, who is the main character. He is in his 60s and not living his best life. He is estranged from his daughter, and you find out that he is divorced. And it happened largely in part because his other daughter, who has now been deceased for a while, passed away when she was in high school. And he sort of spiraled from there and ended up divorcing their mom. He is still very close to his ex-wife, though, who lives just down the street, and she takes care of him. But then she and her new fiance, who he calls his best friend, go on this trip for the entire summer. And PJ is a character that you come to find is very selfish, and he spirals a little bit about this. And I say he's selfish because that's true, but also he was very, very entertaining to read about. He ends up getting custody of these 2 young children and takes them on this road trip. And then he reunites a bit with his remaining daughter, and she goes as well because she finds out he has these kids and is like, no way. He does have a problem with alcoholism. So if that is something you don't want to read with, then don't pick this up. He is working through it throughout the book. There's also a cat that has a perspective, and it's so funny. I can be hit or miss with animal point of view in books, and this one worked super well. And the reason why they're taking this road trip is really funny too. It is because he found out that someone that he used to like in high school is now a widow. So he's heading to Arizona from, I think, Massachusetts to go and try and win her back. That's so silly, and it's really, really funny. And they have a lot of detours along the way. This book is sadder than you might think, so don't think it's light and frothy. There's definitely a lot of serious elements that get brought up into this, but also I think the moral of it is life is hard and horrible things happen, but if you're still alive and able to, you got to laugh through it. And I enjoyed it very much. I gave this 4.5 stars. These characters are really memorable, and I love Annie Hartnett. She is an auto-read author for me. I loved her book, Unlikely Animals, and I still have to read her debut, Rabbit Cake, but she is definitely someone you're going to want to read about. The comps that I would give this one is Margot's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe. I feel like Ruthie Thorpe and Annie Hartnett write similarly. Quirky characters that are fully formed, that you really want to get to know and that you love reading about. Another one that I really enjoyed is A Gentleman's Gentleman by T.J. Alexander. And I've read this author once before. It was Second Chances in Newport Stephen. I really liked that one as well. This one was a little bit out of my comfort zone. I read this for our genre queer episode, and this one is about Lord Christopher Eden, who is a man of unusual make, and he, in order to retain his inheritance, has to marry. And he's not happy about this because he's not attracted to women, but he has to do it if he wants to keep the Eden family name and keep up his appearances and all of these different things. There are some great side characters here, and in the story, he ends up having to hire, what do they call them, a footman or something? A valet. So he has to hire a valet, and what do you know? This guy is distractingly handsome, and the two strike up this fragile friendship. And it was so fun to watch them try and navigate each other because they're very different. Lord Eden's very eccentric and funny and witty, and the valet is very buttoned up at first. This is a romance, so you might guess where things go. I had a great time reading it. I loved reading about this time period. It was, I don't know, I have no clue when it was set. The 1800s? I don't know. 1819. Okay, perfect. So it's set in the 1800s. I had a good time with it. It's a slow burn though. So if you're looking for something that's open door and has a lot of steamy scenes, you probably won't be satisfied with this one. But if you like watching characters have good character growth, if you like Regency England as a time period to read about, if you like historical romance, I think this is a really good one that is very memorable. This one is one that I subbed. So this was the next one we read for our genre queer episode, and I was going to read Last Night at the Telegraph Club, but I couldn't get into it. So I picked up this instead, and I'm very happy I read it. This is Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinan, and I first of all love the cover of this one, and I had a great time reading it. It's got a good setup. It is about this woman who is at a party on New Year's Eve, and she's there with her friends, and they're all doing drugs, and she's like experimenting with being sober. She's kind of over the whole scene, but like, what else do you do when you're young and single, right? And you're out and it's a holiday. And then something happens and she gets irritated, and she ends up going out of the party to collect herself, and then falls down the stairs and has a head injury. And she wakes up in the hospital, and this act sort of really solidifies the fact that, oh, I am, as she sees it, alone in life. And she sort of starts to spiral, not in a bad way, just in a way that's like, okay, what do I want out of my life? And she is a trans woman. And after this fall, she decides she wants to try a stab at heteronormativity. And she ends up meeting Vincent, and the two really hit it off. They both have a lot in common. They have Chinese parents, and they have a great time together. And then the other point of view you're getting in this book is a flashback, and it's to Vincent. Vincent gets his own point of view, and he is back traveling about 10 years ago before college. And you find out something really horrible happened when he was in Thailand with his friend, and that plays a role into what goes on in present day in this book. This book did a really excellent job portraying what it's like to be in a relationship with a trans person and all of the microaggressions that can come up from that. My friend Zach actually told me to read this book, and I'm so glad he did. And he has a wonderful review of it on Goodreads if you want to head over there, and I'm sure he mentioned it on his channel. But I just think this book is really smart. It's really sharp. It has a very specific point of view. I feel like millennials will really enjoy this one. And it's about that time in your life when you're sort of ready to move on to the next step, but then also questioning, how do I know I'm ready? Who I'm going to be in this next step with? You're sort of questioning everything because you have a lot of choices to make that could have lifelong repercussions. Who you're going to marry, if you're going to have children. This book questions all of it. I really loved this book. I thought it was fantastic. I tabbed a lot, and I'm so glad that I read it. These are all really, really high quality. Next is The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. This was our community read for Book Talk, etc. for the month of May, and I am so glad we picked it because it is definitely horror, but it's also horror that is accessible to readers who might be new to the genre. And it's definitely gruesome. Don't get me wrong. It's not light horror. It has got a lot of body horror. It's got cosmic horror, but it's also very readable because it follows these 5 friends that were bonded by an oath to protect each other no matter what in high school. And when they were in high school, they were walking in the woods, hanging out as teenagers do, and found this staircase in the woods that led to nowhere. And one of them decided to climb it, and he disappeared. And so the friends had to decide what story they were going to tell. And now it is many years later, and they decide to come back to the place, or they get drawn back to the place because the staircase has appeared again. And it goes from there. This book is a wild ride. It is genuinely spooky. It's got characters that he did a really good job with the characters in this one, because if you've had longtime friends that you've known since you were a teenager and you're still friends with them now, you might find that you revert back to your old ways every time you all get together. And that's what happens in this one, because they're going through this really horrible stuff and they're still bickering and like bringing up past wrongs. And it was making me laugh because I could see that happen. I loved this book. The characterization was great. Chuck Wendig got such a wonderful mind, but he's also such a solid writer. So this is just really well written, very entertaining horror. The comp for this one is Stephen King's It. And I say that is a big compliment. I find that book is often attempted to be replicated, but rarely is. But this one did it. Another horror novel I loved is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker. This is about a crime scene cleaner who begins to see a string of Asian women being brutally murdered. And she is Asian herself and starts to worry about her own well-being because it seems like this is not random. When they get to the crime scenes, the women have bats. And it's not like 1 or 2 bats. This almost looks like it is a calling card from a serial killer. And the story is really good because you've got that going on, right? And that is enough. But also Cora is also dealing with the loss of her sister, who gets killed very early in this book. She gets pushed in front of a train, and that's in the synopsis. And she's dealing with that, but she's also dealing with maybe a little bit of instability, maybe some mental illness, maybe actual ghosts. You're not quite sure. So there's a lot going on with this one. It is so well written. It has got a point of view for sure, because it talks about all of the Asian hate that Asian Americans experienced at the start of COVID and still today. And I loved this book. It is sad for sure. It's gruesome. It's genuinely scary, and it will stick with me for a really, really long time. I highly recommend it. I am so happy to have 2 horror books that I really loved in my May wrap up. And then finally, this is going to surprise no one, is Know My Name by Chanel Miller was my favorite book of the month. This one was incredible. It's a memoir written by Chanel Miller. She is a survivor of sexual assault by Brock Turner. And it's her story. So much is shared in this. And what I think is so remarkable is that she didn't share her story with her name attached to it throughout the trial. She was known as Emily Doe. And then this book was the first time that she is claiming her story. I am beyond impressed with her writing, but I'm not surprised because it's her victim impact statement that got posted on BuzzFeed and immediately went viral. Almost 11 million people saw it within 4 days. And this is just an incredible story. It's hard to read, but it also is inspiring. You cannot read this and not be inspired and in awe by this woman. And I really loved it. I feel like I learned a lot about the legal system and how unfair it is for so many people, and how women, even though there's evidence, even though there's people that see it happening, still aren't believed. They still get blamed. This book's incredible, and you've got to read it if you haven't already. That is it. That is it for my May reading wrap up. I had a really good reading month, and I'm happy overall. I'm overall happy with it. These books I don't quite recommend. These books I highly recommend. So overall, I think I'm still calling it a win, even if I read fewer books than normal and rated some lower books than normal. I am going to share my June TBR, and I'm still deciding on how I want to do it. If I want to do a set TBR, if I want to have more flexibility. And let me know if you like TBR videos. I am not sure if you all like to see that. Let me know in the comments and I can put that together. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Leave me a comment and let me know what your favorite book in May was, which book you read that was your favorite book. And also don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I am here once or twice a week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.